Doom 3 Phobos is closer to games like Half-Life or Jedi Knight Dark Forces in spirit. Just like classic Doom, these games are types of first-person shooters that have all but vanished. We truly are a different kind of old school. This is how the ModDB page describes Doom 3 Phobos. And as someone that really got into shooters thanks to Half-Life 1, I can greatly appreciate this style of game. Now, I had two older brothers and an older sister very much so in the arcade scene, so I had gotten older shooters before Half-Life 1. I had played plenty of Doom and Duke Nukem and even Chex Quest. But Half-Life 1 was really the game that got me into first-person shooters. So when a lone person recommended this mod, I knew I had to try it out. Doom 3 Phobos is an entirely new story. It doesn't just add content to the base game, this is stuff you will never see in the base Doom 3. The main character you play as is known as Sam. And for once, unlike other games, you are not a silent protagonist, you do have a voice. The other protagonist in the game is known as Samantha Miles. You never actually see this character directly. Both these characters are fully voice acted with new lines not in the base game. They didn't just rearrange some old assets they had around, they created entirely new voices for these characters. These voice actors are actually pretty good. Now, they're not going to win an Oscar by any means, but they're also not terrible. They won't break you out of the game or make you cringe every time they talk. They are good enough to get you invested in the game. When it comes to voice acting in mods, you usually have a few problems. The first one is that the voice actors are just not good at it and it's really hard to listen to. The second one is that their microphones have different quality. Or maybe both of these things will happen and it'll create a terrible experience where new voice acting shouldn't have been added in at all. Thankfully, that's not the case with this mod. I actually quite enjoyed the few things your main character would say as things are falling apart around you. Like 1:30 p.m. Saturday, last time I looked at it I was like, oh. Shit. Your character occasionally remarking on the things around you actually reminded me of Tommy from Prey 2006. In fact, Prey 2006 is probably the best comparison for this game. The pacing is really similar. This game starts very slow, and when I say slow, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean slow in a way where it immerses you in the world around you and gets you to know the characters in the game. Very similar to that of, say, the bar scene in Prey 2006. Now, if you're too impatient for this to be your thing, or if you've already beaten the game before and want to skip right to the combat, just start a new game with the second chapter and you'll be able to shoot stuff right away. But for the first time playing through, I would really recommend you to play this chapter, because it makes the build up to the eventual clusterfuck that happens later all more meaningful. Anyway, the game starts you out in Emerald Valley, Oregon, which is where Eugene is. If you still don't know where Eugene is, that's where University of Oregon is. The Ducks. If you still don't know where that is, that's about 3 hours south of where I am in Portland, Oregon. I don't have any point in saying this, I just think that it's kind of cool that's happening basically in my backyard. You wander around for a bit, you talk to your neighbor who you apparently have some sort of a relationship with, and then you wake up with a splitting headache on Mars. You have no memory of who you are, so you just wander around Mars City trying to find the doctor. If you're me, you wander around for far longer than you should have because you're reading the Twitch chat, not really paying attention to the big signs pointing you to the medical bay. You have some weird acid trip nightmare with Samantha narrating in your ear about her mother who is apparently dying the entire time. I assume the whole point of this is to hammer in the fact that you have history with this person. You eventually wake up, you get on a tram, and then at this point, everything goes to hell. Or, well, hell comes to you. This mod happens around the same time the outbreak happens in Doom 3. Which is actually really cool. I always love it when games allow you to see something from another perspective. It reminds me of when you can see the resonance cascade from a security guard's perspective in Blue Shift. Anyway, this is where the shooting bits start, and your whole objective from this point on is to be guided to the extraction point by occasional voice calls with Samantha. Said voice calls that display Samantha to you through a very odd piece of art. I'm not sure why they chose this image to use for Samantha in video calls. I assume they didn't want to create another character model because you never actually see her in game. But if this is the route you're going to take, you probably should have art that fits the game better than whatever this is. It doesn't affect the gameplay negatively, but it definitely pulls me out of the game and breaks immersion. It just seems very inconsistent with the art style of the game at large. Now, there is more happening in the game here. There are mysteries left ambiguous on purpose, so I recommend you play this mod if you're curious about the story. Graphically, this game is actually pretty impressive for a mod. Now, I know Doom 3 graphics mods have gotten insane over the years. I've played some that just look fantastic, but this one looks good in a different way. They made Mars City look like an actual city. There are places to buy things, even an adult shop, neon signs all over the place. They added textures that weren't originally in the game and even recreated Oregon, which definitely Mars doesn't look like Oregon, just putting that out there. Also, if you live on the East Coast or the Midwest, yes, it's pronounced Oregon, no, it's not pronounced Oregon. How do you get Oregon? There's not an E at the end of it, why are you saying it like that? If you want to trigger an Oregonian, the fastest way to do that is to say Oregon. But yes, for a mod this game looks fantastic, and that is held up by the fact that Doom 3's lighting is still really good, even though the game came out in 2004. Thankfully this mod uses the lighting tastefully. You won't be walking around in complete dark hallways having to shoot at who the fuck knows what because you can't have your flashlight and your gun out at the same time. Now you can't have your flashlight and your gun out at the same time in this mod, but there's generally enough light to see what's going on around you, and the areas are generally bigger than just a blank empty hallway. Not all mods are compatible with this mod, so I don't know if duct tape mods will work with it, but you don't really need the duct tape mod, you can see what you're doing. And this improves on Doom 3's gameplay astronomically. No longer is the gameplay just walk down hallway, imp spawns in front of you, shoot imp, oh imp spawn behind you, turn around and also shoot imp, keep going, but the rooms are bigger and the enemy AI has more places to go, meaning that your gunfights are going to feel different. There's also some subtle differences with the enemies themselves. For the most part, they're basically the same, and you have the same sort of progression of finding the weak zombies, then the imps, and then stronger enemies as the game goes along. But occasionally you'll notice something different, like for example the imp now having a double fireball attack, which I've played Doom 3 a lot and I don't think I've ever actually seen this, correct me if I'm wrong. This really helps your gunfights with the imps. It's always really fun to run up to an imp and blast him in the face with a shotgun, but this makes it a little less samey by having a different attack. An imp is no longer predictable. It's not just gonna spam fireball, slowly walk you, maybe do the lunge attack, spam fireball. It's going to be doing different attacks now. But the biggest difference when it comes to the gameplay are the weapons. They're still the same Doom 3 weapons, at least by model, but the way they work is so different that they don't feel anything like the base game. For starters, you start with a grabber, which was from Resurrection of Evil, and it's the same. This one didn't actually change, but it is nice to have to get rid of those stupid skull fucks. Yeah, just pick it up and throw that butt face across the room. You don't have to deal with it anymore. Next up is the pistol, which sounds way stronger than the base game. On top of this, the fire rate cap has been removed, so you can spam the hell out of this thing, and it actually makes the pistol fun. I never thought I would say that. The Doom 3 pistol is enjoyable. As you likely noticed, the perspective is a little bit weird at the pistol, but it's a throwback to the original Doom, so I'm fine with it. Like the pistol, the submachine gun has a much better sound effect, and it seems to do a little bit more damage. The shotgun is vastly different than the original Doom 3 shotgun. Not only does it use the alpha model of the shotgun, so it looks totally different, but it has way more range and does way more damage. I don't think I need to tell you this, but in base Doom 3 you practically had to be muzzle stuffing them with the shotgun for it to really do damage, but in this game you can actually shoot from a pretty good distance. Don't get me wrong, I liked the base Doom 3 shotgun. I wasn't one of those people that said it was a pea shooter. The thing was one of your most effective tools in the game. But this one just feels better. But my personal favorite has to be the chain gun. This thing is absolutely ridiculous compared to the base game.
Jesus Christ!
Yep, the rate of fire is much closer to that of an actual chain gun. This thing quite literally disintegrates enemies. Needless to say, the gunplay has been greatly improved from the base Doom 3. But more interestingly, it just doesn't feel like Doom 3. Like, it's a Doom 3 mod, that much is apparent, but it plays like something much different than what Doom 3 gave us. I really can't think of anything negative to say about this entire mod. Maybe that it's easy to get lost sometimes, and by sometimes I mean I got lost only twice in the entire game, and one of those times was totally my fault. I walked by a locked door that was locked because it was supposed to make me go answer a voice call. I answered the voice call, there was a key card right next to it, and I just didn't notice the key card and backtracked for a bit before realizing that's not the way to go, and then found the card and went through the locked door that was right there. Totally on me. But the other one wasn't really on me. At one point you have to hit a big button which will stop the fan, and then you also have to put in a code which will open up a vent. I have no idea where this code is in the game. I wandered around for a while kind of being lost on where I needed to go and what I needed to do. I looked around for this code, couldn't really find it, eventually gave up and looked up a walkthrough. I found where you inputted the code, input it myself, and then kept going. I still have no idea where you see it in the game. Maybe I'm just being blind like the key card, but I don't really see the point of having this. What's wrong with just having something next to the vent that lets me open it? Anyway, for the maps not being just linear hallways, getting lost once really isn't a complaint. The map design reminds me of Blast Pit in Half-Life 1. It's linear, but there are different branching pathways to go that generally wrap around in on itself. But it's not so complicated that it feels like a maze. In fact, some of Doom 3's maps also did this. Either way, it was a pleasure to play after playing nothing but either open world games or completely Call of Duty linear games for the last 10 years or so. It took me around 2.5 hours to beat this mod, and by the time I did beat it, I wanted more. But this is where we get to the interesting part. This is just episode 1 of this mod. They planned on releasing episode 2 in 2019, but that didn't happen. They released a statement in December of 2019 saying, hey, we're still working on it, it's still looking good, and I do believe them that it will come out. Mods generally don't meet their release date. But the reason I say this is interesting is because this mod came out in December of 2018, a little over a year ago, and no one seems to know it exists. For how high quality this mod is, it deserves way more attention. It's been going on for a long time. They've been working on this mod since 2004. Yet somehow, unless you're in the know about Doom 3 mods, you won't hear about it. Hell, I look up Doom 3 mods and I didn't know this was even a thing. Yet it's here and it's really high quality. So this mod deserves more attention. I would recommend you to go play it. Link this video around or just link the ModDB page around. Make sure people know about this mod, just get people playing it. I'll be looking forward to episode 2, when or if it comes out. It's a mod, you never really know. I mean, anything could happen, but I do believe it's going to come out someday. Thanks to everyone that joined me on Twitch while I was streaming this game. It was a real pleasure. If you want to join me in the future, my Twitch is twitch.tv/Jarek4GamingDragon. Everyone that subscribes over on Twitch will get a secret channel in my Discord, and you get to see videos one day ahead of time. Same thing goes for my patrons over on patreon.com/Jarek4. Thank all of you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.